Just making sure I can get into my car later.
Rory, are we on? Are we ready? Thank you. You ready? Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the June 9th Truckee Town Council meeting. Can we have a roll call, please?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. Councilmember Zabriskie?
Here.
Councilmember Pallavi?
Here.
Councilmember Romack?
Here.
Vice Mayor Henderson?
Here.
And Mayor Klovstad?
Here.
Thank you.
Would you all please stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance? Thank you so much. Now is the opportunity for anybody to step forward and make a general public comment on any items that are not on our agenda this evening. Is there anybody that would like to make a public comment on items not on our agenda? Please step forward. Ms. Cashin, you have 3 minutes. As you well know, the clock is over here. We look forward to hearing your comments.
Hear me?
Can you hear me? Good evening. My name is Emily Cash, and I was a practicing RN for 34 years, and Donner Lake holds a special place in my heart after my friend Kathy Palucha and I worked for 3 years to have Delaware Water Company condemned, the dilapidated and contaminated system turned over to the TDPUD and completely rebuilt, finally getting Donner Lake residents off a long boil water notice. Last Saturday was the 21st year of a successful Truckee cleanup day, and I applaud all involved, including recognizing the tireless efforts of Mayor Kovestead, who has championed this effort since 2013 with a focus on protecting the Truckee environment and our precious Donner Lake. I thank you. I would also like to acknowledge the various players in the town that have resulted in the successful implementation of placing boulders to minimize further erosion into Donner Lake, and reducing the speed to 30 along the lake with signage to keep the public safe. I am aware that Chief Renfro was instrumental in driving this engine at hyperspeed to be ready for this summer. Thank you. Finally, I request that the Greenpoint property owners petition with signatures submitted May 2025 regarding West Reed Avenue's legal status be agendized and presented in order to publicly provide new definitive proof that West Reed was legally dedicated, accepted, placed into the Nevada County road system in 1924, and despite a major Nevada County error discovered by the tax assessor's office in 1973, was again deemed legally a county public road to be inherited upon the 1993 Truckee Incorporation. Documents obtained from the Nevada County Tax Assessor, Grand Jury, LAVCO, Board of Supervisors, County Public Records, California Streets and Highway Codes, and Truckee Public Records support our claims. In compliance to California state laws and the LAVCO contract, this road is to receive maintenance, snow removal, and drainage mitigation in order to keep the public safe. After considerable town obstruction over years, the town council was forced in December 2019 to recognize West Reed was a public road, but to date, the town has yet to comply to state law or the LAVCO contract to provide those services while receiving taxes for those services. In July 2025, we submitted a well-indexed binder of our evidence to the town hired attorney, Ms. Milredy. Greenpoint property owners have had no response or update. It's time to see if this town, who professes transparency, aligning with the democratic process echoed by Mayor Kovested's commitment to residents of a collaborative spirit, has substance. With respect, we request to have our petition documents presented. Please give us a response. Thank you for your attention. Do you have any questions?
Thank you, Ms. Cashin. As you know, with our general public comment. Whoa. since it's not agendized, we cannot deliberate about it. But as I explained to you, I have had a conversation with the town manager, and we are requesting an update from the attorney, and we will respond back to you at that time. Thank you.
And I am submitting a document to our town manager, Jen.
Thank you, Ms. Cashton.
Thank you.
Is there anybody else that would like to make a general public comment at this time? No public comment, Chris? Okay, good to know. Okay, we will move on with our presentations. So, if I could have Annie Rosenfeld join me at the podium. Thank you. We get to talk about Truckee Bike Month. Thank you for being here for this. Okay. So, whereas May is National Bike Month, promoted by the League of American Bicyclists and celebrated in communities from coast to coast since 1956. And whereas local and regional entities in the Truckee Tahoe region, including the Tahoe Regional Planning Agency and the Lake Tahoe Bicycle Coalition, celebrate June as Bike Month to avoid late season inclement weather and encourage bicycling for recreation, commuting, and replacing car trips. And whereas bicycling is a viable, healthy, and environmentally sound form of transportation and recreation supported by the town's general plan, trails and bikeways master plan, and the Nevada County Active Transportation Plan. And whereas Truckee Bicycle Network includes trails, bike lanes, bike routes that serve bicyclists year-round, reducing pollution, congestion, and roadway wear. And whereas the town of Truckee recognizes Tahoe Donner Association for its continued leadership, partnership, and investment in advancing bicycling, active transportation, trail connectivity, and recreation access in the Truckee-Tahoe region. And whereas Tahoe Donner Association emphasizes connectivity, sustainability, and environmental stewardship through its Trails Master Plan, which focuses on protecting natural areas, accommodating multiple user groups, and connecting Tahoe Donner with the broader Truckee community. And whereas Tahoe Donner Association, in partnership with the town, is advancing a future Class 1 multi-purpose paved trail connection from Trout Creek Trailhead area to the Alder Creek Adventure Center, improving bicycling and pedestrian connectivity within the community. And whereas to celebrate June as Bike Month in Truckee, Bike to School Day will be held on June 5th, Bike Everywhere Day will be held on June 17th, and the third annual Truckee Bike Month Bingo Challenge will be held all month long. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the mayor of the town of Truckee that June 2026 is recognized as Truckee Tahoe Bike Month and encourages all residents, visitors, and commuters to join with our community in participation of local and regional June Bike Month activities. All right. Yes, you should.
Of course.
Yes.
I just thank the council for this recognition and staff. It's a pleasure to work with all of the town staff, most importantly the engineering staff on these initiatives, and we're very excited about the upcoming active transportation plan that the town's going to be developing. So we're happy to participate in that. Thank you.
Whether she wants to be recognized or not, she's kind of a ripper on Strava. So if you get invited on a bike ride with her, just be forewarned. Okay, next, I would love to invite Eliza Tudor to join me. I'm so excited. What an honor to present this to you.
Anna, thank you.
Okay. This is a very unique and special proclamation for us. Whereas, since 2016, Eliza Tudor has led Nevada County Arts Council as Executive Director, serving as a tireless, passionate, collaborative, and effective leader for arts and culture. And whereas in 2017, Eliza enthusiastically galvanized the town, arts community, and business community to successfully apply for Truckee's designation as one of the first 14 California cultural districts. And whereas, since its designation, Eliza has supported Truckee Culture District's creation, growth, and visibility as a vital cross-sector partnership supporting accessible arts and culture in Truckee. And whereas, in 2019, Eliza championed the completion and adoption of the Truckee Public Art Master Plan and the establishment of the Public Art Commission of Truckee, which has now completed numerous successful permanent and rotating public art installations in Truckee. And whereas, under Eliza's leadership, the Nevada County Arts Council acted as the administering organization for the Upstate California Creative Corps grant program that was responsible for re-granting $3.4 million to 19 counties and 80 grantees, including Truckee artists, in partnership with county arts agencies in each of these counties. And whereas Eliza has worked with the Truckee Cultural District to lead Truckee's Dark Skies Awareness Campaign and Night Sky Photo Contest using art and creativity to spread awareness about the importance of dark skies. And whereas in 2026, under Eliza's leadership, Nevada County Arts Council completed Culture Forward, Nevada County's first art and culture action plan, a community-driven roadmap designed to strengthen and sustain Nevada County's creative ecosystem. And whereas the board member of California Arts Advocates and Californians for the Arts, Eliza has passionately advocated for the arts, art funding, and arts and culture in California's rural communities. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the mayor of the town of Truckee that the town of Truckee applauds and thanks Eliza Tudor for her significant contributions to our community and wishes Eliza well as she departs for her next chapter. Congratulations. Yes, please.
Thank you so much. What a lovely, solemn proclamation. I feel like such an imposter. It all happened rather fast. Oh, thank you so much. It all happened rather fast, so I didn't sort of prepare notes in advance. But just to say, when I first arrived in my role in 2016, my first stop in Eastern Nevada County was with the town manager of Truckee, Tony Lashbrook, who quickly became an ally, followed by Jeff, and now Jen. What a fabulous town manager you are. Thank you so much. And, of course, Hillary Hobbs. Hillary really led this charge alongside us. You've been absolutely amazing. And the single member of staff, and now with Becky, who has been part of this 10-year lineage. So thank you so much. Council, Anna, Courtney, Jan, David, and Lindsay, along the way you've engaged in conversations with us on critically important issues, and some fun ones, whether through our joint application to the state, whether through projects such as Forest Fire, which you so championed. That was an extraordinary project, charting the 13,000-year history of forest management in the Tahoe National Forest. Along the way, we've had exceptional partners such as Truckee Arts Alliance, now Truckee Tahoe Arts Alliance. Troy is with us in the room, and now Kelly leading the charge for Truckee Cultural District. We couldn't be in better hands. It's wonderful that earlier this year, when we launched the implementation phase for Culture Forward, Nevada County's first ever arts and culture action plan, which centers our 2 California cultural districts, it was here in Eastern Nevada County under the Convene, Champion, and Catalyze convenings that Supervisor Hardy so beautifully puts together once a month. Thank you, Mandy, for ensuring that we were part of that. And how great to know that in September you will be considering the adoption of Culture Forward. I think that'll be a tremendously helpful North Star for all of us. And I think Kelly and with Troy, as such important partners, we couldn't be in better hands. I won't be leaving post for the next couple of months, so I will be in touch with all of you, but thank you for this enormous honor. What fun it's been.
Okay, last but not least, may I have Matt O'Grady join me up here, please? Hello, Matt. Nice to meet you. Okay. Whereas June is National Home Ownership Month, which raises awareness about the benefits of owning a home and the importance of making home ownership more attainable for all Americans. And whereas every family deserves to have the opportunity to reap the benefits of home ownership, from building generational wealth to building memories for years to come. And whereas achievable home ownership for Truckee residents supports the community, economy, and the environment. And whereas, since 2015, the Martis Fund has supported home ownership in the Truckee Tahoe region through the Martis Fund Down Payment Home Buyer Assistance Program. And whereas, through the Martis Fund Down Payment Home Buyer Assistance Program, more than 100 local families have been able to achieve home ownership. And whereas, the Martis Fund has also partnered with the town of Truckee to leverage the Truckee Home Access Program and permanently protect housing for the local workforce through deed restriction. Now, therefore, be it proclaimed by the mayor of the town of Truckee that June is recognized as National Home Ownership Month and recognizes and thanks the Martis Fund for its ongoing support of home ownership in the Truckee Tahoe region.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Would you like to say a few
Thank you all. We very much appreciate this award, and I'd like to provide special recognition and acknowledgement of thanks to our director, to the rest of the cast, and especially to our playwright. Oh, I'm so sorry, wrong acceptance speech. My name is Matt O'Grady. I am the Vice President of the Board of the Martis Fund. You got it. Thank you very much, seriously, for this award. Since our inception 20 years ago, the Martis Fund has invested some $27 million into our community. And that includes some $7 million to advance our goal of achievable workforce housing for the community. Over the past decade, our down payment assistance program has helped dozens of families buy and move into their first ever homes in Truckee. And most of those homes are now deed restricted, securing them for the workforce housing of the future. Like the town of Truckee, we have also seen the need for continued special focus on more deed restrictions for new housing to be built in the town of Truckee to meet the pressing demand for that. Thank you again for this award. We look forward to continuing our partnership with the town of Truckee because there's so much more to do. Thank you.
So much more to do. We are so fortunate to have such great partnerships in this community, from our Arts and Cultural Council to our Homeowners Association and organizations like Martis Fund. Thank you, everybody. So now, Jen, I believe you're going to do some employee incentive awards.
Well, actually, I'm going to make you keep waiting for a few minutes and ask Slater to do a capital projects update for this coming season.
We'll take it.
Good evening, Mayor Klostad and Town Council. I'm Slater Stewart. I'm a senior engineer with the Town of Truckee, here to update you on some summer construction projects Have a list here, mostly town of Truckee construction projects, but I'm also going to touch on some developer-related projects, Truckee Fire Project, and some Caltrans projects, all which might have some impacts to traffic. This is the biggest project that the town is working on this year. This is the 2026 roadway paving and drainage project. I'll just kind of run through some of the roads that are on the map here. We have Donner Pass Road from Donner Pines Market over to South Shore Drive. Have the whole Northwoods Loop. We're doing some paving out in the Prosser neighborhood, East Alder Creek, Forest Court, and Pine Forest Road. We're doing Brockway Road from 267 all the way over to Estates Drive. And out in Glenshire, Dorchester Drive, Berkeley Court, Argyle Place, Eaton Place, Nelson Street, Royal Way, and Surrey Place. On Northwoods, you can expect work to begin sometime in June and last throughout August and potentially into September. Most of the work on Northwoods will all be daytime construction with one-way alternating traffic control. Over on Donner Lake, construction is going to start here pretty soon, June 15th. The work is scheduled to take place primarily between June 15th and June 27th. Dorchester should be completed hopefully before school starts out in Glenshire. As part of the paving and drainage project, we're also doing some trail repaving, mostly over sort of by the middle school and then over in Grace Crossing. So I have some of the trails up here on the screen now. None of these trails really have official names, but if you want to take a minute to look at the map, those are the trails that we're planning to repave this year. We're also doing some recessed striping. The traffic impacts from this project should be pretty minimal, but we're going to follow up our paving project with recessed striping on Northwoods Boulevard, Donner Pass Road, Dorchester Drive, and Brockway Road. We received some federal grant funding, so we're replacing guardrail around town. Again, some traffic impacts to Northwoods. The main impacts with this guardrail replacement projects is just going to be shoulder closures. So if you're a cyclist, you might have to ride around some of the shoulder closures. But we have work on Donner Lake Road, Northwoods, Shushing, and out on High Street in downtown. We're also going to be working on the Mobility Hub Phase 2B, which includes construction of a 1,000 square foot transit building. It's currently in the design phase, and I think we're planning to hopefully construct in late summer. You guys have had several presentations on this, so I won't dwell on it too long, but we've been doing some improvements out on the Donner Lake corridor. Most of them are complete. We've reduced the speed limits. We're narrowing the lanes out there to 10 feet, increasing the fine for parking in the bike lane, new signage, and we place those boulders on areas where parking is infeasible. Next Monday and Tuesday, we're planning to go do some trail stenciling out on the Legacy Trail and on the Trout Creek Trail. Some construction that is developer driven, which is going to have an impact to town roadway, is a new roundabout that's going to be built on Deerfield Drive near Dolomite Way, right in front of the Truckee Hotel and the boulders right there. You can anticipate sort of single lane, one-way alternating traffic control closures for just about the entire summer out there on Deerfield Drive as they construct the roundabout. This is part of the Coldstream development. The Truckee Fire Protection District is working on basically a defensible space project in the central part of Truckee. You can see the project limits here up on the screen. It's approximately 275 acres, and there should be hopefully minimal traffic impacts, but they're going to be doing a lot of early morning trucking from various landing locations, and there will be impacts to Donner Pass Road, Northwoods, Fjord, Alder Creek, Bridge Street, and Brockway. I think they're planning to start in August, but not 100% sure. I have some Caltrans projects that I'm going to get into here. If you were out today, you saw some of the traffic backups related to work on 267. I only have slides in here for work on 267 and Interstate 89, but I also did just find out today that they're doing some work on Interstate 80 throughout the course of the summer, and their estimate for potential total delays for the trip between Sacramento and State Line could be up to 2 hours at any point during the summer. So if you're making the trip from Sacramento to State Line, you can anticipate delays up to 2 hours. This one, Caltrans is working on some pavement rehabilitation on 89 pretty much all summer, and they say delays up to 30 minutes. They're also working on some broadband on 267. Again, they say delays up to 30 minutes traveling on 267. And some broadband going north on Interstate 89, similar delays up to 30 minutes going that way. And that's it.
That's all? Nothing
That's all.
else? Wow. All right. It's really disappointing. There's so little going on. And we'll have so few traffic impacts this summer.
Right.
Okay.
Cool.
Thank you.
That is so easy to keep track of. We'll go into, we have a number of employee incentive awards, so get comfortable while I read these out. As a reminder, this is a nomination that employees can make for their colleagues in recognition of great work that align with the town's core values of integrity, teamwork, accountability, commitment, and excellence. And I have consolidated these, and there's still a lot to read. So it was a pretty impressive nomination period this last quarter. First, we have Ruby Lindquist, and Ruby was recognized for excellence, commitment, and teamwork. When a new trial project required an interpretive sign, Ruby volunteered and stepped in with her artistic talent and created a beautiful final product that enhanced a community asset while saving the town the need for an outside consultant. Her creativity and willingness to step up made a lasting contribution, and Ruby demonstrates that willingness on a daily basis and has done a lot of amazing artwork for us. So we really appreciate that. Alfred Knotts was nominated for his leadership under pressure while taking on the responsibilities of two major roles, both the assistant public works director role and filling in transit while we had an absence. He managed both critical transit and Measure V projects. He supported his team, and he worked alongside the public works crews through the few storms that we had this winter, as well as the community vigil response in preparation for that. His commitment to service, mentorship, and teamwork sets an outstanding example for all town employees. Laura Dabe, Chelsea Krager, Adam Peterson, and Kaylee Matroka were recognized for stepping up on short notice to facilitate a housing element workshop. They quickly learned a complex and sometimes controversial topic, engaged the public effectively, and helped transform a technical meeting into a successful and meaningful community conversation. And this was the workshop we had back in December. Yumi Don demonstrated outstanding commitment and excellence through her leadership of the housing element update process. As a reminder, you're going to hear that at our next meeting in June, so more to come. She successfully organized and managed a highly complex public workshop, creating a productive and engaging dialogue around one of the community's most important and challenging issues. Caitlin Young received multiple nominations this round, reflecting the impact she has on Town Hall every day, whether taking on difficult and unexpected cleaning challenges to keeping our facilities safe or consistently maintaining the highest standards in one of the most demanding and often overlooked roles. Caitlin is our custodian here at Town Hall and our other facilities. Kate demonstrates professionalism, commitment, and excellence with a positive attitude, and she's just a joy to work with. Lydia Carrillo is the heart of customer service. We dub her title as the manager of first impressions down at the front counter and building. Whether helping with code updates, facilitating meetings, or serving as welcoming face and voice at the front counter, Lydia consistently goes above and beyond. Her willingness to help others, learn new skills, and support her team makes a difference every single day. On our facilities side, Abel Aislis was recognized for an act of integrity and compassion. When he came across an elderly couple stranded in a snow berm, he stopped to help without hesitation. His simple act of kindness not only solved a problem, but left an impression that so much so that the couple called the town to express their gratitude and share how much his assistance meant to them. And then congratulations to Sarah Ring. I don't think she's here tonight. We now have 2 certified municipal clerks within our organization. Sarah's been working on that designation for a while, and achieving the certification required years of coursework, training, and dedication. Sarah's accomplishment reflects a deep commitment to a professional excellence, accountability, and strengthens both her department and the organization as a whole. Caitlin Thomas and Carrie Tabor in our Code Compliance Division were recognized for exceptional teamwork, professionalism, and compassion they bring to code compliance. Their work helping homeowners navigate complex ADU permitting issues requires technical expertise, creativity, patience, and consistent collaboration. They've become trusted partners in helping residents achieve compliance and safe housing outcomes. Mariah Stone in our Communications Division stepped in at a critical communications role during one of the most difficult periods our community faced this year. That was during the avalanche period that we had. While supporting avalanche-related community outreach and severe weather communications, she provided calm, effective leadership and ensured the public received timely information and support when it was needed most. Nola Mitchell was recognized for her leadership for the Public Art Commission and implementation of the Public Art Master Plan. Through her vision, organization, and passion, she helped create a lasting framework for public art in Truckee, enriching our community today and for years to come. Tammy Fittement consistently demonstrates teamwork and dedication by supporting parking enforcement efforts, educating the public, and always being willing to lend a hand when needed. Her readiness to help others exemplifies the collaborative spirit that strengthens our organization. And Tammy also serves in our chaplain capacity, and so was called out in many different aspects of the events that happened in February to support our community. We had 2 of our outstanding PD teams that were recognized. It included our sergeants, our officers, and our detectives. We had Sergeant Holbrook, Officer Litchie, Jason Radcliffe, Ryan Ruano, Pat Schaefer, Daniel Moss, Sergeant Heath, Jason Tessler, Josh Buckley, Connor Vickers, Sergeant Covington, Luke McKinley, Dylan Quigley, Corey Woodward, and Sergeant Lopez. They were all recognized for 2 different responses, as I said. The response for the incidences that happened in February, their professionalism, courage, rapid response, and relentless investigative work protected the community and ensured those responsible were brought to justice, as well as for their extraordinary work investigating a series of commercial burglaries during the holiday season. Through hundreds of hours of surveillance, investigative work, and dedication beyond normal duties, they successfully identified and apprehended the suspect, bringing relief to our local business community. And then we recognized just all the town employees that really helped with the vigil in February, bringing that to fruition, our law enforcement response to all the events that happened in February, and helping move the community forward through those difficult times. And that is all of the incentive awards.
That was a lot, but how wonderful. Those are all great examples of how our team works together. Okay, that concludes all of our presentations. So, or do we have another one?
I still have town manager updates.
Oh, geez,
so,
that's
right.
Keep going, Jen.
I'll keep going. I'm going to ask Kelly to weigh in and give an election update. It's not certified yet, but she has the latest news from Nevada County.
Oh, yeah, just looked at it. Measure K was passing at 75.27% as of the 4:30 polling results.
Fabulous.
I do have a few more updates. First, I want to thank everybody for coming out to Truckee Day. It was a great turnout again, another great day. We had about 580 volunteers who collected 1.89 tons of litter. That's 3,780 pounds of litter. So thank you to everybody in those 23 check-in stations throughout town that helped to clean up our community. We are in the middle of an evacuation study. I think many of you know that, but we are seeking community input and feedback on our survey. You can find the survey on our website at townofTruckee.gov/evacuation study. It's pretty quick. Take a moment and fill that out. It's really important for how we move forward with our evacuation planning. Tomorrow, June 10th, you can join Mayor Klövstad and our council and staff at Dalbeumoe Park from 4 to 5 p.m., where we'll be with the designers of the park. The Washoe Tribe will be there, and many community members celebrating an award of excellence from the California Park and Recreation Society. And then on Monday, June 15th, we have a residential trash service community meeting here in Chambers from 5:30 to 7 p.m. If you're interested in learning more about the trash service, what you would like in the future agreement while we're working through the franchise agreement or planning for that in the year ahead. I'm going to skip my updates on construction because Slater covered those so well. Thank you for that. And just a reminder, it's Bike Month all month long. We have Bike Bingo happening, and join in on the fun.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Okay, now I'll open up to council questions or comments on any of the presentations. Do you have something?
I have a question. Slater, in your construction update, I don't know if I heard when the Brockway Road construction was happening, and if you said it, I apologize, I missed it. Timeline on that.
So there is some Truckee Donner Public Utility District work that's been sort of happening over the past month, and I think they should be wrapping up soon. But we put in our contract documents that our contractor could not start paving, I believe, until August or July or August. I'd have to look in the contract documents, but it should be later this summer, July or August.
Got it. Thank you.
Cool.
Anything, Councilmember Pallavi? No. Anything on this side? No. I will open up all the presentations for public comment if anybody would like to come make a public comment on any of the presentations we just heard. Oh, good. I'm glad you guys are coming up.
It's not. Good evening, members of Town Council and Town staff. Thank you so much for that beautiful proclamation for Eliza and all the hard work she's done here in the east part of the county. My name is Kelly Cutler, the program manager for the Truckee Cultural District. And I first crossed paths with Eliza during my time as executive director at North Tahoe Arts. It was a very long time ago. I think my daughter was in preschool and she just graduated high school. Fast forward, the opportunity to work alongside Eliza when the Truckee Cultural District Program Manager position opened felt like hitting the jackpot. Eliza is known statewide for being a force and a visionary when it comes to growing opportunities for artists and building cultural equality in under-resourced communities. I think we all know that and have seen the incredible work that she's done. Culture Forward, our Arts and Culture Action Plan, was a 2-year process, a very heavy lift with deep community engagement, and reflects absolutely the best work the arts councils can be doing. In fact, Eliza recently brought this globally to Latvia, Culture Forward, to present it to a strategic planning commission and talk about how this rolls out in rural communities. A plan like Culture Forward. We're now looking forward to implementing Culture Forward, and Eliza, I hope, can look forward to a less than 100-hour work week. I wanted to extend a special invitation to all of you. We're going to be celebrating Eliza next Monday in Nevada City at the Miners Foundry. I believe it starts at 5 p.m. You can find it on Truckee Cultural District Social and Truckee Arts Alliance as well. We're going to be celebrating Eliza's 10 years of service with the west end of the county, so I hope to see you there. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Kelly.
Good evening, Council. I'm Troy Corliss, and I currently serve on the Truckee Public Art Commission. I've had the pleasure of working with Eliza almost her entire tenure, and she is a rare person who has the gift of working at a large scale to be able to rally support through state legislature and California Arts Council to make the case of why they should support Nevada County artists. and Northern California artists. And also growing the Nevada County Arts Council, which is a state local partner and really no easy task, to say the least. And making frequent and regular trips over to the east side of the county to Truckee to participate with meetings, check in with artists, understand what kind of work they're doing in their studios, and really having a tap on what everybody locally is doing. So we're going to greatly miss having you and working with you, and we wish you all the best and happiness in your next chapter.
Thank you, Troy, as do we. Oh, we have one more? Oh, okay, great. Okay, closing public comment on the presentations then. I am going to take this opportunity to make a comment myself about our trail stenciling. I'm very excited to see that coming back. And we have a challenge with one trail in particular gets painted over every year by somebody or some people. So to that person or those people, these are intended to be safety measures. These are intended to create a way for us all to use the same path in a safe way and in a community building aspect. And so to me, a real community member is a builder, not a blotter. And by blotting these stencils, you are becoming the hazard for our community. So please don't do it this year. That's all I'm asking. With that, we can move on to our consent items. These are regular, considered business, non-controversial, and I'll read through them and then ask if anybody would like to pull an item. So 6.1, minutes of May 26, 2026 regular meeting. 6.2, adopt resolution 2026-30, calling for the general municipal election in consideration with the statewide general election. 6.3, lease to locals program update and contract renewal. 6.4, Truckee Home Access Program review, guidelines update and contract renewal. 6.5, purchase of automated license plate recognition technology for the downtown parking district. 6.6, contract award for 2026 guardrail replacement project. 6.7, contract approval with JKAE for bidding support services for the Rail Yard Mobility Hub Phase 2B. 6.8, adopt resolutions declaring town right-of-way as exempt surplus land under the Surplus Land Act and approving minor street vacation pursuant to Stratton Land Exchange Agreement, APN 19-120-011. 6.9, California Governor's Office of Emergency Services, authorized agent resolution for state and federal financial assistance grant programs. 6.10, adopt resolution 2026-31 to adopt the fiscal year 2026-27 annual operating budget and 5-year capital improvement project budget. And 6.11, I need to read the entire thing, so bear with me. Adopt resolution 2026-32 approving the wage matrix for fiscal year 2026-27. The recommended action being that the council approve resolution 2026-32, which 1, adopting the town of Truckee job classification list effective for fiscal year 2026-27, pursuant to the requirements of the California Code of Regulations, Title II, Section 570.5. 2, providing that a 3.0 cost of living pay adjustment to the town manager, Jennifer Callaway, resulting in an annual pay amount of $308,563.44. And 3, providing a 3.0 cost of living pay adjustment to the town attorney, Andy Morris, resulting in an annual pay amount of $275,503.27. Are there any members of council that wish to poll any of the agenda items?
I would like to pull 6.4.
6.4, Truckee Home Access Program is pulled. Are there any other council members that wish to poll an agenda item? Okay, seeing none, do I have a motion to approve everything except for item 6.4?
I'll make a motion we improve the consent calendar minus 6.4.
Second.
All in favor? Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Okay, passes unanimously. Okay. So, Councilmember Romack, would you like to share with us your thoughts or what you would like to discuss on the Truckee Home Access Program Guidelines update?
Yeah, thank you very much. Very excited. This is back with us. This is a fantastic program that provides home ownership opportunities. We just heard about the Martis Fund and the goal of more ownership opportunities. So very excited to continue the program. I would like to bring up again and have council consider in our guidelines, it does currently, make you so you have to have an asset cap of 30% or below of the sale price of the home. And I know we discussed this earlier, but one of the reasons, just looking at the program goals in our staff report, is that we are looking for ways to increase the total housing stock that is deed restricted. We're looking for opportunities to serve higher income levels up to 245%, expanding deed restriction programs to include more for sale product, and creating a second for sale housing market. And so I know that the asset limit has restricted, thank you staff for providing answers to the question, at least 2 people who were interested in the program from being able to purchase. I know last time we considered this, we had a public comment from a homeowner who had utilized the program and purchased a home that was more expensive than they had wanted to because of the asset limit, and had spoken to, there was a divorce settlement, so that's why they had this lump sum and it wasn't a regular thing. So I would just like to, put it out there, be interested in removing the asset cap or looking, thank you staff, for some other options. So that way we can expand this program and continue to allow it to be available to as many people as possible, still maintaining, the 245% AMI level. So we're still kind of reaching that target of folks that, are a little higher income, but still probably need help in our current housing market. So with that, maybe I would love to hear from Lynn. Thank you for preparing some ideas.
Yeah, I figured I didn't want to just read off all those numbers and have you try and memorize them. So I did do a little bit of background research after hearing this might get pulled to look at some of the other programs that are similar to THAP. So Placer County does not have an asset limit. They also don't have an income cap at all, so they have a very wide-ranging program. I talked to our program administrator, Housing Inc., that in addition to Placer County's program, also does a lot of traditional below market rate programs across the state. They said it's pretty typical for a below market rate program to have an asset cap. One thing that our program does differently, that especially in some of the BMR programs, is it does not include retirement accounts. These are just cash assets or like home, stocks, bonds. So it does not include anything in like 401ks or pensions or anything like that. So that is a difference between our program and some programs that do have asset caps. So it is a little more flexible. The other So I looked at Vail Indeed program. They do not have an asset cap or income cap. Their program is very wide open to everyone. I looked at Eagle County in Colorado. They do not have an asset cap, but they do have a requirement that you can't already own a home. And so I wanted to mention, don't know if you all remember this, but when we were first discussing or when we were developing the final set of program guidelines back in 2022, one of the reasons an asset cap was included was because council did not want this to be a first-time homebuyer program and wanted some opportunities for people moving in from lower cost areas who might still own a home to be able to purchase in Truckee if they're moving to the area. And so the asset cap was considered to be kind of a balance piece so that someone moving into the area from a lower cost area who might still be working on selling their home could potentially buy, but their home value must be under the 30% asset cap, and not make it a traditional first-time home buyer program where you can't be on title, can't own a home in 3 years, because council didn't want it to be structured that way. And then additionally, the asset cap was to make sure someone's not owning a expensive home somewhere else and then also buying a home with THAP, because we don't have an owner occupancy requirement. We do have a qualified tenant requirement if the owner is not occupying it, but that was just to give some background on why the asset cap was originally discussed. But we've been doing the program for 4 years, and as I mentioned in my question and answers that maybe members of the public haven't seen, we do know that there were 2 people that applied for the program and their assets were too high. We don't know who's self-selecting out, so there may be people out there who'd be interested in the program and are self-selecting out. And we do get a lot of recommendations to the program from loan officers who know the financial situation of the people applying. So most of the people recommended by loan officers are, meet the qualifications as closely as possible. So that's just some background information about applicants and the background of the program.
Go right ahead.
I have 2 questions, one for you and then one for staff. Are you proposing an asset cap, or are you proposing removal of all asset caps, or are you saying you just want to go up to 40%?
Lynn put these together knowing that there was going to be interest in this. I would like to see either the asset cap increased or no asset cap. I'm open to deliberation from my fellow council members.
Well, we got to be clear that we're just deciding whether or not we would want to ask to agendize this in the future.
Yeah, that would be my recommendation.
Yeah,
It was great that
see.
Lynn put this together, but I think we need to do a little bit more diving in if we understood what your interest is.
Okay.
Yeah,
I
so
have
this
another
would
question.
have to come back.
Yeah, okay, great.
Okay.
So I just have a question then, which will align with whether or not I want it to come back, I guess. We currently are allocating all funds, and we've allocated all funds in all years funding has been available, or
Not
we're
this year.
starting to see a plateau, and so now we're not able to allocate all funds.
Previous fiscal years, we've allocated all funds, including 1 year where we came back for more funding. This year, we have not allocated all funds and don't anticipate doing so before the end of the fiscal year. So this year, we did not hit our cap of funds this year. So there was room. I think there are many reasons that happened this year, but it is possible that there are a lot of people squirreling away money to make a big down payment with interest rates as high as they are. Yeah.
What is our balance going to be at the end of the year approximately, or how many?
We will probably end with enough funds to do, but I think it's like 560. So it'd be enough home. We've done 6 this year, and so we'd probably be able to do 4 or 5 additional if we'd used it.
Thank you.
I think it's a little bit early maybe to share this, but we do have our first home that was a THAP home that is now in escrow to sell again. So I guess that is, in theory, is proving that this works, but you are apt to see less new homes and, some of the resale. That is a possibility as you get more into the market.
Are there additional questions on this side?
Yeah, Lynn, I know you said that retirement accounts are excluded from the asset cap. Is the down payment that someone is also, like any down payment or deposits related to the transfer, is that excluded from the asset cap?
No, the down payment, any money they bring in for down payment, we don't have a minimum down payment requirement like some programs do, but any down payment, earnest money, deposit, that is all counted as part of the assets.
So I'll just say that I do think that one is kind of, and if this gets agendized, maybe we can talk about it more, but I think that's interesting because then it sort of penalizes exactly the prudent buyer who saved a large down payment on like a $700,000 home, a 30%, that's $210,000. And their down payment is going to eat most of that. So a responsible saver who's like being really prudent to buy a home, the cap is going to make it really challenging for them.
So, interesting. Means we may want to have a further discussion because I think we're kind of at our limits. Of
I think it's
deliberation.
Thank you
with
so
this.
much for pulling it and bringing it up, and I would love to talk about it more.
Councilmember Zurisky,
Yes.
are you
I
willing to
wanted-
discuss this further at a future agenda item?
Let me ask a question
Okay.
first, and then, Lynn, I want to make sure I'm consistent with why we originally established an asset cap. I had thought it was established in a sense of if people can afford to make a down payment, then they could go on the open market and buy a house, and that we were doing an asset cap here to address the people who may be prudent, but still they can't afford to accumulate enough money to make a down payment without assistance. Is that a fair description of?
My recollection of your conversation around this was that you weren't, because you have limited funds in housing, whether there are funds that are unallocated in this program, you are maxed out with how much funds we have available for housing with our housing designated funds, that you were trying to provide an opportunity for people that didn't have, say, $1 million that they had saved up and could afford to be on the open market. You were trying to keep these funds available for people that didn't have that savings or those assets.
Okay. For people who essentially had no other option. for
Or just
acquiring a house.
less options, perhaps.
Fewer options, thank you. Okay, that's it, thank you, Mayor.
Okay, so you would like to agendize this. Are you interested in agendizing this at this point?
With a caveat, and that caveat is I'm well aware this isn't in the work plan, and B, yes, I will support a future agenda item. And I want to just put out there that my issue is not pro or con on an asset cap and necessarily any how the change in asset cap might change things. My motivation is in using all possible budget monies to get as many deed restrictions as possible in a year. So my compromise is sort of like, as markets change and as interest rates change, this might need to be an annual type of agenda item that reflects market conditions. And we might want to just consider that as a piece of the future agenda item. So I will support an agenda item, but I want to keep it tight.
Similar to the advanced question about the $150,000 limit, and are we tracking when/if we would want to adjust that? So similarly, we want to look at it holistically.
Precisely,
Okay.
and have it pegged to something that triggers
not just
that.
arbitrary, we want to increase it,
Correct, thank you.
which creates staff time.
Correct.
Okay, on this side, are you in alignment with that line, that staying in that lane, Councilmember Zabriskie? Okay. It sounds like we are interested in seeing that. We look forward to hearing from you as to a reasonable time frame for that, given the other impacts on your current workload. Okay.
So good news, it actually is in the work plan to analyze THAP. We had pushed it out to the fourth quarter of 2026, just with Housing Revenue Working Group and the homegrown housing. So doing a larger THAP analysis, looking at larger market conditions is in the work plan.
So is it okay to incorporate this in that discussion?
Yes. Yeah, I think that's absolutely reasonable. Okay. With that, is there a recommendation to approve item 6.4?
Yeah, I just want to thank Councilmember Romack for the questions and Lynn for your answers. They were very helpful for this item.
A motion? Would you like to provide a motion for me?
So moved.
A second? No, oh, right. Thank you. Actually, and I forgot to do public comment on the rest of the consent agenda. So, are there any public comments on the entire consent agenda for our consideration? Seeing none, we'll close public comment. May I have a motion, please?
I repeat my motion.
Okay. We have a second. Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? It is approved unanimously. Okay. We can go on to our agenda discussion item 7.1, adopt resolution 2026-28 for the 2026 parcel charges for town special service areas and permanent road divisions. And Slater's back.
Hello again. I'm Slater Stewart, Senior Engineer with the Town of Truckee, here to hold a public hearing for the parcel charges for the town special service areas, TSSAs, and permanent road divisions, also known as PRDs. So we have 9 special service areas around town, and as well as some PRDs. Here's kind of a map of where they are. The 2 largest are Tahoe, Donner, and Glenshire. The purpose of the presentation tonight is to conduct a public hearing on the TSSAs and the PRDs, accept public input concerning the parcel charges for the TSSAs and PRDs, and discuss the allowable uses of the TSSA funds, and adopt Resolution 2026-28, setting parcel charges for fiscal year 26-27. So currently, there are parcel charges assessed to Tahoe Donner for $70 per unimproved lot and $95 per improved lot. Out in Glenshire, it's $23 per unimproved lot, $115 per improved lot. And then in Cambridge Estates, it's slightly higher, $84 per unimproved lot, $176 per improved lot. This results in an annual revenue in Tahoe Donner of approximately $599,000 per year, and in Glenshire, approximately $182,000 per year. These parcel charges are used, and I'll get into this later, for additional services such as enhanced roadway paving or other special projects that provide kind of a specific benefit for the TSSA, but also a public benefit for the residents of Truckee. So here's kind of a timeline for our communications with TSSA 1, which is Tahoe Donner. We attended the Tahoe Donner Association board meeting on April 24th to discuss the funds and answer questions. The TDA board replied with a letter on April 30th supporting the use of TSSA 1 funds for all prior allowed uses, including enhanced transit services, and reserving funding for future pavement maintenance and special projects. So for TSSA 1, we're recommending that the parcel charges in Tahoe Donner are continued at their current levels, and that all prior eligible uses of funds, including enhanced transit services, are eligible. We have a list of kind of the current eligible uses here. It's roadway and drainage maintenance improvements, trail development and construction, enhanced snow removal, parking improvements, design and construction of the Pioneer Trail and Bridge Street Extension Project, emergency preparedness, roadway safety infrastructure, and design and construction of emergency egress improvements. Current projects, special projects that we're anticipating funding towards are the emergency evacuation planning, the Tahoe Donner Emergency Egress Study, and the Tahoe Donner Trail. The Tahoe Donner roadside vegetation management was completed last summer, so that's being removed from the special project list. I kind of just went over all of these. A potential future project would be to initiate community polling regarding different options for the Pioneer Trail and Bridge Street Extension project. And I think the polling is anticipated in fiscal year 2027-2028. The timeline for our communications with TSSA 5, which is Glenshire. On May 29th, town staff met with the Glenshire Devonshire Residents Association manager and one of the board members to discuss the parcel charges and the eligible uses. And then on May 27th, GDRA responded to the town with a letter, which I included as an attachment. The recommendations for TSSA 5 are to continue the parcel charges at their current levels and to have the funds be eligible for roadway, drainage, trails, and transit services. Expected use of TSSA 5 funds in the near future. We have right now just planned for enhanced road maintenance. Potential future projects not currently in the work plan or the budget are to create a more formal pedestrian or bicycle crossing near the Legacy Trail trailhead along Glenshire Drive. And we're working with GDRA right now as part of the ATP update that Alfred Knotts is spearheading to consider that request in our ATP update. There are a lot of other TSSAs and PRDs around town, but none of them are currently assessing parcel charges. So we would recommend maintaining the $0 parcel charge for all of the TSSAs listed up here. So again, the recommendations for tonight are to conduct the public hearing on the TSSAs and the PRDs and to adopt Resolution 2026-28, setting an assessment for fiscal year 2026 and 2027. That's it.
Wonderful. Thank you. Council questions? I'll go to this side first. None? Councilmember Zabriskie?
I have just a couple on the Glenshire TSSA. One is, and they're both related, so I'll pose them at the same time. One is, could you give us a little more detail on a possible better access to the bike trail there at the west end of Glenshire, what that might involve? And related to that, has there been any interest that you're aware of from the HOA in Glenshire for a separate bike lane along Glenshire Boulevard, like a separated bike lane?
To answer your latter question, I have not heard a specific request for a separated bike lane along Glenshire Drive. I'm not sure if it's been requested to any other town staff. But regarding the crossing near the Legacy Trail, my understanding is the main concern arises from cyclists traveling westbound along Glenshire Drive, going from their house to go access the Legacy Trail. And there's no way for them to safely get from that bike lane, which is going westbound, across the road to the Legacy Trail trailhead. So I'm not exactly sure what the improvements out there would be to establish a formal crossing, and I think that's something we'd have to consider different options as part of the ATP update.
Thank you. Any questions from this side? No. Thank you for answering our questions ahead of time. Those explanations were very helpful. Looks like there's a lot of work to do still on all of this, especially with future assessments of the value of those funds. So with that, I will open this up for public comment. Do we have anybody in the audience interested in making public comment on this agenda item? Thank you very much. You have 3 minutes. Please state your name for the record.
Thank you. My name is Annie Rosenfeld. I'm the General Manager of Tahoe Honor Association. First, I just want to thank, again, the recognition of the proclamation, and this gets to my comment today. The town has before them two major studies. One is the active transportation plan and the evacuation study. I believe in the possibilities of this community to bring great things. take us back 20 years ago, no one truly believed in what the greatness of the Legacy Trail, some did, but what the greatness of the Legacy Trail could be to this community and what the Trout Creek Trail could be, what evacuation planning could be, the vegetation management, all the land management that we do here in this community. And look where we are today. Look at downtown Truckee and what has been envisioned by this town council and past town councils. And I would hope that through Tahoe Donor support and this council and our partners, that we can continue to think about the possibilities of solving major problems in this town, specifically regarding active transportation. And this is where I get to, we believe that there are going to be findings out of these two plans that are going to drive capital improvement at the town level. And Tahoe Donor will be paying attention and participating in that, because we do think that there are different ways to address our issues at hand, whether it's emergency evacuation or active transportation, safe transportation of our children and ourselves, not in our vehicles. I'm going to step aside. As a resident of Truckee and a resident of Glenshire, and watching the bicyclists, the walkers, the dog walkers, most especially our children, trying to access that trail, the Legacy Trail, from Glenshire, I am surprised that my own HOA in Glenshire has not communicated to the town, and that there aren't more residents asking for safe transport around Glenshire Drive for our children. So I will be advocating as a resident of Truckee for better access through Glenshire Drive, and I know that David Polivy sees that on a daily basis. It's very concerning, and as a cyclist trying to get to work, it's very scary at certain times, and it's very scary thinking about our children being on bicycles or just walking along Glenshire Drive in that place. So I just thank the town council for letting me speak on these two matters, both on behalf of Glenshire residents and then Tahoe Donor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Are there any other public comments on this agenda item? So the Glenshire HOA did include that as a key point that they would like to see addressed, and town staff is evaluating that as part of the active transportation plan update. So we will be looking at that intersection at Glenshire Drive and the Legacy Trail in the future. Okay, back to council. Any deliberation on this agenda item? We've seen it multiple times before. It is kind of an annual event for us. Any additional commentary or deliberation?
Commentary. I
All right.
appreciate the comments from Ms. Rosenthal, and I think it's more than just getting across the Legacy Trail. Also, the challenge of biking up that section of Glenshire Drive, which tends not to maintain the striping for bikes, and the bike lane gets pretty narrow coming up. Plus, just the length of Glenshire Drive once you're in the community, I think puts kids at risk. So I'm looking forward to making some progress there along the lines of what we heard in the comment.
Thank you. Anything else from this side? Okay.
I'll just add that, I look forward to the active transportation plan as well. And thanks, Annie, for your comments with both of your hats on, and look forward to more discussions with you on what you mean by capital improvement projects at the town level being shared via Tahoe Donor and others. And I think that will be a great opportunity to have those conversations. And you're right, I live, 4 houses to the east of that intersection. It is a major intersection, and a crosswalk over there at Dorchester as well is probably on the ATP list in my opinion too. But we've all just been waiting so patiently for this ATP, and one day it will be here before us, and we will have this great opportunity to look at all these modes of transportation and all of those capital improvement projects that you are correct are going to be expensive and coming from that. So I think quite prudent to be continuing the TSSA fees as they are and really using them judiciously, especially with our HOA partners, so that we have some money in the bank in order to be able to accelerate some of those that might be further on the priority list than others. So I think we're doing a good job. And if there's no other comments, do you want me to make a motion, or you have some comments?
My only comment is in alignment with the questions ahead of time of just that annual fee level, since it hasn't been adjusted since 1992. I am very much so looking forward to next year's updates when we have an opportunity to evaluate that more, understanding what our broader expectations are based on the active transportation plan. So with that, please, unless there's anything else. Okay.
I make a motion that we adopt resolution 2026-28.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, Slater. Okay, 7.2, Mel, delinquent accounts for residential solid waste services. Another trend coming back around. See this every year.
All right. Good evening, Mayor and Council. Melanie Gabritas, Program Analyst with the Keep Truckee Green Division, and this is another public hearing about parcel charges for delinquent accounts for residential solid waste services. So pursuant to the Town Municipal Code, charges for collection that are delinquent and unpaid for a period of 60 days as of June 30th shall become a lien on the real property upon which the premises are located, and the property owner shall be notified as required by applicable law. These are for unpaid accounts to Tahoe, Truckee, Sierra Disposal for extra services. So as a reminder, the base solid waste services are covered on residential property taxes, and any additional services such as a dumpster rental or overage charge are billed directly to the customer. Any unpaid balance over $50 is placed on a resident's property taxes. Customers have been notified of the charges due multiple times. TTSD bills are sent quarterly, so the most recent bills were sent on December 31st, 2025 and March 31st of this year. TTSD then sent a letter to delinquent accounts on April 17th, and the town sent a subsequent letter on May 11th. Customers can still pay through June 30th by 4 p.m., and any accounts delinquent after that date will be added to the tax roll. The list of delinquent accounts as of May 27th is included in the council packet. New this year, we're including a delinquent account administrative fee. So at the last annual fee schedule update, Town Council approved a delinquent account administrative fee to recover the town's costs of collecting unpaid balances. Our town costs include the administrative fee charged by Nevada County to place charges on the tax roll, postage for mailing notices, and staff time. This shift allows the administrative costs for collecting delinquent accounts to be covered by the delinquent account property owners rather than all property owners through the solid waste fund. And property owners were notified of this new fee in the town letter sent on May 11th. So with that, here's the staff recommendation to adopt Resolution 2026-27, establishing delinquent residential solid waste service accounts and authorizing the Nevada County Auditor Controller to place direct charges on the secure tax roll for collection of delinquent account balances.
Thank you, Mel. I think some people are confused about why they get overcharges, and so some clarity on that. It's things like you have an extra bag, or your trash can is over full, right? You can get charged for that as well, and I think maybe some people don't realize that if they could just keep stacking it up, it'll all go. Are there others?
Yes. So yeah, each resident in the annual solid waste rate receives collection of one 32-gallon can collected per week. So any overflowing trash beyond that 32-gallon can Additionally, any cardboard, that's a typical thing people are not aware of. Cardboard should be placed in a container, including it would be best to recycle cardboard in a blue bag or recycling cart. Loose cardboard left next to your trash can in your bear box or out on the street is considered an overage because that's considered extra trash if it's not in a recycling receptacle. And then, yeah, overflowing trash containers, contaminated blue bags as well can result in an extra charge. Blue bags are only for recycling. So if there's trash in your blue bag, you can be charged for a trash overage as well.
That's very helpful. Thank you. Are there any questions from council? Nope.
I have one.
Okay, go ahead.
I don't know about you, but I always look at the exhibit to make sure like mine isn't on there. Just didn't mess up at all. But I did notice that 13417 Moraine, there are different units associated with it, but there are 3 at that address that have the same APN. Whereas there are some that are at the same address, but they have different APNs.
Yeah, we can look into that further, but so obviously only one property tax bill is sent per parcel. However, some parcels might have multiple units. It might be a multifamily complex.
Right.
So if there's multiple accounts, there might be multiple residential units on one parcel. We only have the capacity to bill the property owner. So there may be a circumstance where there's a property owner that will receive the delinquent charges for the residential units on that property.
Okay.
But I'm not sure the specifics on that particular one, and we can look into that.
Can we just double check that one, just because it struck me as odd since they all have, again, it's 13417 Moraine, and it says 1, 2, 3, and 4. 1 and 2 are actually listed twice, but 2 has 2 different APNs associated with it, and then 1, 2, and 3, the second version of 2 and 3 have the same APN. So it just, I was like, is this a red flag? Is something wrong here?
We can look into that.
And there are a lot of multifamily units on that road, yeah. Any questions on this side? Okay, and I asked mine already, so I'll open this up for public comment. Is there anybody in the public that wishes to make a comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, we will move forward. Is there a recommendation or a motion?
I will be happy to do that. I did just want to say thank you, Mel, for recognizing the delinquent fee that's now being charged. So again, a reminder that that's not being spread across all property owners. It's only those that are not paying what they should be.
Good clarity.
And Vice Mayor, I too look down the list and try to find neighbors. So if I see them out there, like, don't forget to pay. But with that, I'd be happy to make a recommendation that we adopt Resolution 2026-27, establishing delinquent residential solid waste service accounts and authorizing Nevada County Auditor Controller to place direct charges on the secured tax roll for collection of those delinquent account balances.
Do I need to add an amendment that we're just going to double check those APNs?
You don't have to, we'll have it.
Then I'll second it.
Second, thank you. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? None. So passes unanimously. Thank you, everyone. Okay, we are moving right along, so we'll keep going with 7.3, if that's okay with everybody. Adopt resolution establishing, oh no, wait, we did that one. Approve contract, is that where we're on? Yes, 7. We just did 7.
Solid waste rates.
Oh, interesting, mine has 2, 7, okay, yes. Thank you. Adopt resolution 2026-25, establishing solid waste rates.
Good evening, Mayor and Council members. I'm Erin Brewster, the Sustainability Program Manager with the Neighborhood Services and Sustainability Department, and I will be presenting our proposed residential and commercial trash rates for the next fiscal year. So as you know, our franchise agreement with Tahoe, Truckee, Sierra Disposal, or TTSD, began in 2018, and we are about to enter year 9 of the 10-year agreement. The franchise agreement lays out the methodology for annual rate adjustments based on changes in the allowable cost for TTSD to provide the contracted services. For rate period 9, which is fiscal year 26-27, we are scheduled to use an index-based adjustment methodology. This involves adjusting TTSD's projected costs through a weighted mix of changes in various federal cost indices, such as the Consumer Price Index, Employment Cost Index, and Fuel Price Index. Costs included in the calculation are TTSD's direct costs, such as staffing and equipment, as well as pass-through costs like tipping fees at the processing facilities. The rate adjustment factors are then calculated to account for the difference in projected costs versus projected revenues, including optional services and overage fees. The rate adjustment is calculated separately for the residential and commercial collection programs. I do want to point out that the rate calculation methodology in the current franchise agreement includes a 5% franchise fee that does not cover costs from the solid waste program, but instead pays into the town's general fund. That franchise fee is intended to recover costs such as repairing damage to roadways associated with the hauler's use of public property and infrastructure. However, new for this year, a recent court ruling determined that this type of fee conflicts with a section of the California Vehicle Code. There is legislation pending that would address this issue and allow cities to resume recovery of these costs. But until such legislation is adopted, staff do not recommend including a franchise fee in the solid waste rates. So this year, in lieu of collecting a franchise fee for fiscal year 26-27, town staff are recommending a one-time fee set at the same amount as the previous franchise fee that will instead be directed into a new rate stabilization fund in the solid waste fund reserves. This revenue would be used to mitigate costs that would otherwise impact rates in the next fiscal year and future rate periods. So the town intends to use these funds to mitigate anticipated rate increases from the new franchise agreement that would start in 2028, to offset cost impacts from unanticipated service changes, such as extending the yard waste collection season, which we're proposing this year, and to mitigate rate impacts from capital projects. And as a note, the reason it's so important for us to have sufficient reserves in the solid waste fund is that provides cash stabilization between July and January. So we pay TTSD monthly for the cost of collection services, the pass-through cost from the rates that we collect on the property taxes. But we begin paying those bills in August, and we don't receive the first property tax payment until around January. And so that we do have to front about 5 to 6 months worth of those operating expenses before we receive those pass-through funds from the county. So the suspension of the franchise fee provides a limited time opportunity to build up the solid waste fund reserves in a way that's cost neutral to ratepayers compared to that franchise fee. And this would mitigate future anticipated rate impacts. So without bolstering the solid waste fund reserves at this time, we don't believe the reserve balance will be sufficient to support a rate buy down or other rate stabilization strategy or our capital projects. Capital projects are typically funded by reserves in the solid waste fund instead of being included in our annual rate calculations, and that helps us reduce volatility year to year in those rate amounts. So we contract each year with a consultant, HF&H, to provide an independent review of TTSD's rate application. The memo that is attached to the council report includes the results of that review and resulted in the following adjustment factors for rate period 9, a 3.92% increase for residential rates and a 0.05% increase for commercial rates. In addition to the calculated adjustments to TTSD's rates, the town applies an administrative fee to all residential and commercial accounts. This is not the same thing as the delinquent account administrative fee that Melanie just discussed. And this administrative fee recovers the town's costs for operating the solid waste program. It's calculated to cover the solid waste operating budget for each fiscal year after accounting for grant funding and other revenue sources. As I mentioned, our capital projects are not typically included in these calculations, but if our reserves drop too low, we would have to start doing that. And the solid waste fund, as a reminder, is an enterprise fund receiving no support from the town's general fund. So as you can see, the proposed fiscal year 26-27 administrative fee is slightly lower than the current year's fee, and that reflects a small decrease in the solid waste program operating budget for next fiscal year. Including both the administrative fee and the TTSD residential rate, the total proposed annual residential parcel charge for fiscal year 26-27 is $533.16, and that equates to a monthly cost of $44.43. This annual rate will be collected as a parcel charge on the property tax roll for most residents if council adopts the authorizing resolution. All residential property owners that would receive this charge were mailed a notice of the proposed rate at least 45 days before this hearing, which included details on how they could submit a written protest letter. As of 4 p.m. today, the town has received one protest letter. And I do want to highlight that the residential annual trash rate includes a number of bundled services at no additional cost. I won't read through all of them here, but that includes all the curbside collection services, scheduled overages, bulky item pickups, free yard waste drop-off, and drop-off bins for cardboard and food waste. Staff is also requesting council approval tonight to extend some of the residential green waste programs by an additional month and to utilize up to $20,000 of the new rate stabilization fund to cover these costs. Due to the unusually warm winter and early snowmelt, residents began inquiring about options to support defensible space clearing by late March, and staff made the decision to start the residential yard waste drop-off and dumpster rental programs a month early in April, as we reported to council at that time. There was no change to the curbside yard waste cart collection program, which will operate from May through November as usual. The franchise agreement includes operation of up to 6 months of these programs in the rate calculations and grants the town flexibility to adjust the season earlier or later, depending on the weather and other conditions. And that's something that we have done in the past as weather conditions have varied. Because these two programs started a month early, they will also end a month early at the end of September unless funding is approved to extend them through their usual end date in October. So we are asking for up to $20,000 to cover these costs. We do anticipate the actual cost will be lower than that, and TTSD will calculate that actual incremental cost of that extra month of service, and that is what they would bill the town for if this is approved. I also do want to highlight that we have begun the process of developing the next franchise agreement, as our current agreement ends on June 30th, 2028, unless extended. This is a multi-year process, and the first step is to develop an RFP. This new agreement is an opportunity to make changes to our collection programs and address some remaining state requirements. So staff will present recommended program changes and other aspects of the RFP for the next franchise agreement to the Town Council in August of this year. And with that, these are our recommendations, and I am happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you so much, Erin. All right, questions on this side to start? Go ahead.
Erin, thank you very much for all the information. And you mentioned the rate stabilization fund that's available for buying down future rate increases. I believe we've used that in the past few years, correct, to help stabilize rates?
We have used our reserves, not this new particular subset of our reserves, but yes, we had a residential rate buy down, I believe, for fiscal year 23-24, and that was approximately $350,000 of reserves, and that brought the rate down. I don't know the exact numbers from memory, but it was a roughly 16% increase, and that brought it down to about 9%.
Great, just to remind everyone the helpfulness of something like that. And then you highlighted the administration fee is going to go down, and you said just program costs. Can you speak to a little of why those are going down?
Sure. There was nothing significant, as you saw. It's a small decrease, but we calculate our operating budget every year and then set the administrative fee to cover those exact costs. So we just had a few relatively small decreases in some of our anticipated expenses, but there was nothing significant that I could point to. It's, $5,000 here, $10,000 there, and that adds up to a small decrease overall.
Great, thank you.
Councilmember Palovin, no. Anything on this side? Vice Mayor Henderson, go right ahead.
Yes, thank you. So I know the reason we're making this change is the Rogers versus Redlands ruling, which you explained in the staff report and tonight. And Andy and I had connected a little bit because I had a question of just, are we just relabeling the same 5% as a reserve contribution rather than a franchise fee? Like, are we actually curing the problem or just sort of renaming it? But Andy had done a bunch of legal research as well on this. And I just want you to be able to sort of share some of what you told me as well about how it is legally distinguishable from the fee Rogers invalidated, just so that we're not exposed to the same challenge.
Sure, happy to. So a bit of background. So franchise fees have always been justified for solid waste franchises in terms of being a fee to recover some of the cost of repairing the roads and maintaining the roads, the rationale being that heavy trash trucks wear down the roads. And so for decades, for 50 plus years, that's been the rationale for franchise fees for trash. There's a provision in the vehicle code that's been on the books for decades that says you can't charge people a fee for using the roads in general. And so just this year, a court case came out that said, oh, well, franchise fees are that. They're a prohibited fee under the vehicle code. And so every city and county in the state kind of went, ugh. And now there's an effort to get a legislative fix going. But in the meantime, cities and counties are not charging solid waste franchise fees, at least the ones that are paying attention. So the difference between a franchise fee that we can't charge at the moment and this rate stabilization fund that we can impose is that the franchise fee goes into the general fund. It can be used for stuff. It can be used to offset the town's costs. And what we're talking about doing now is collecting money to help the ratepayers. It's all going to go back to the ratepayers. And it's a pretty common thing. I mean, cities and counties that have especially new franchise agreements coming in the pipeline, very typically will ask the ratepayers to pay a little bit extra so they can then smooth the rate increases. Because you know there's going to be a rate increase probably. We haven't negotiated it yet, but probably there will be. And so it's pretty common to say, pay a little bit more now, and that's a way of kind of gradually having the rate increase take effect instead of pay the same amount now, and then all of a sudden, oh man, the rates just went up by $10 a month or whatever it is. So they're very different things. I'm glad you asked the question. And we're going to do this just for 1 year. And hopefully by next year, hopefully the legislature will have solved this issue, which I don't think anybody saw coming.
No, that's really wonderful. I really appreciate just your, like, all of the research on that. And so just two more questions. So because it is one time versus ongoing, it's a one-time fee, but the fund's stated purpose is also multi-year rate stabilization. If SB 922, that legislative fix that you mentioned, or similar legislation doesn't pass for some reason before next year's rate setting, is the expectation that we'd reimpose this 5% again? Or sort of conversely, what's the trigger or condition under which we wouldn't do that?
I think that we'd have to see how things are going by next year. Because again, it's not about propping up the town's solid waste fund. It's really about having a rate stabilization effect for the ratepayers. And so at the moment, this is only intended to be a 1-year thing. And I'll have to defer to Aaron and Hillary as to what, or Aaron and Paul maybe, as to what the idea might be next year. But I think right now we're only looking at this as a 1-year idea.
And we know how the legislation can work. It sometimes can be very fast, sometimes very slow.
So if for some reason SB 922 or similar didn't pass at the state, you would come back to us in a year and we'd have a conversation again.
Correct. The authorization is for a one-time fee, and we're here every year talking about the trash rates for next year. So certainly, council would have an opportunity to discuss that. I think, as I did mention, because of the way we collect our trash rates on the property tax roll, and we do have to front several months of those monthly payments, we do know that there is a longer-term discussion to be had about what the proper amount of reserves should be to make sure that we can cover our operating expenses in that time. So at some point that, how reserve policy may be something we recommend adding to the work plan, but that's not something we're working on at the moment. But we would, if this legislation doesn't pass, we will kind of reorganize and figure out what makes the most sense for next year and have that discussion with council.
Thank you, Erin. And just my last question. So this would create a fund of roughly almost $575,000, and it has several different sort of uses within it, right? Like the buy down to mitigate anticipated rate increases, capital projects, cash flow smoothing, and that's more than $500,000. It's a lot of money. Will the use of the fund come back to council through any kind of spending policy or reserve policy, or is it just drawn down at staff discretion?
So any spending of our solid waste fund reserves is included in our budget for council at the very least. If it's done as part of that process or we come mid-year, certainly a rate buy down is something, as we did a few years ago, that we have as a separate item for council consideration when we bring up the rates. So yes, that we would be specifically discussing, as with this extension of the green waste season, any use of these funds.
Great. Thank you so much, Erin, and Andy as well for your answers.
Thank you for the question. That's very good to know. Councilmember Zabriskie.
Yeah. Can you tell me where the rate stabilization fee shows up in the fee schedule? It's the first attachment. Is it part of the administrative fee, or does it have a separate line item? Or
So similar to the calculations for the franchise fee, it's actually included in the rate calculations themselves. So it is a line item in the rate calculations. The full rate calculations are not included in the fee schedule. And so there is a note that all rates include this 5% fee less, it's 5% of gross revenues less other town fees.
okay. So it's part of for residential rates, it'd be part of the $482,000. $482 per year.
Correct. It's part of both residential and commercial rates. And then we have the town's AB 939 fee is similarly included in the calculations for the commercial rates only.
Okay, those are all the questions. All right, I'll open this up for public comment. Is there anybody wishing to make public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, we will move back to council for deliberation. Is there any additional discussion on this agenda item?
Yes, I just wanted to make a comment that I really appreciate, Erin, your work, your team's work, and thank you. I think, on the administration fee, reducing the cost, even though it's only 3 cents a month, you're looking at every penny. And so I think that's really important. I did just want to highlight, as we all know, when you look at going back to the beginning of this agreement, rates have gone up a lot since 2019, I think 66%, if I did my math correctly. So just continuing to look at ways to be prudent with our funding. And I'm glad to hear there's a workshop next week, I believe we heard. So residents who are interested in the future of solid waste collection can participate. Because I do think that is something that every year just keeps ticking up, and we know it's expensive to live here. So just being mindful of ways, again, we can continue to keep it as affordable as possible to live here in Truckee. So thank you.
At what year did the system go to the bundled rate? Was that in 2018-19?
Yes, the bundled services rolled out over the first few years of, all the source separated services rolled out over the first few years of this franchise agreement, which started on July 1st of 2018. I don't know off the top of my head the exact years when each of those services rolled out, but the intent was to spread some of those costs out over time and help smooth out those rate increases.
Yeah, because first we got the recycling carts, and at some point we added the food waste bins and the cardboard bins for community use, and then we had the green carts. So there have been added services as well, but yeah, a very good point, Councilmember Romack. Okay. Yeah. More deliberation?
No, I just had 2 comments because they weren't really, I absolutely support this. And I just had 2 items that we haven't really touched on that I wanted to mention. So I also wanted to really call out, I so appreciate you proactively opening up the green waste collection early. The winter, it was just one of the wildest winters I've seen, and really doing this early as an important wildfire mitigation measure. So I really support extending the yard waste collection into October. Thank you for, again, just being really proactive in doing that. And then the other thing that I wanted to call out is just that under the prior structure, that 5% franchise fee flowed to the general fund. So by suspending that fee, redirecting it to the stabilization fund, which I am supportive of for all the reasons we've talked about, we're moving about $575,000 away from the general fund. And the staff report describes it as cost neutral to ratepayers. I absolutely agree. It is. We're trying to stabilize. We're trying to potentially buy down their rates in the future. But I think it's just really important to recognize it isn't cost neutral to the general fund, right? In the budget we've adopted, we still have a balanced budget. That's obviously a very, very good thing. But I think it's just important that we sort of call out and recognize we're doing this work to support ratepayers sort of now and as we move into the future. But the cost to that is also to our general fund, whether you look at that $575,000 as funding that could have gone toward a CIP or toward more staff or toward more police. So I'm just elevating it because these are always the trade-offs that we're having to make. And I think it's important if anyone's watching that you really understand like what those trade-offs are.
Excellent addition. Thank you for that, Vice Mayor Henderson. Anything else on this side? No.
Aaron, thank you for the report. It was very nice and comprehensive, well organized. That's very helpful.
Yeah, and it's nice not to be making big changes anymore. We're kind of stabilized on all of this. So we were making a lot of changes there for a while. Okay, with that, can I have a motion, please?
Sure.
I move. Are you sure? I move that we've conducted our public hearing and adopt resolution 2026-25 establishing residential and commercial solid waste rates and authorizing the Nevada County Auditor Controller to place direct charges on the secured tax roll for solid waste collection services in CSA 7 Tax Area 3 and authorize the town manager to execute a contract with Tahoe Truckee Disposal Company, Inc. for up to $20,000 to cover the fiscal year 26-27 costs of extending residential yard waste programs to be funded from solid waste fund reserves.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, Aaron. Okay. Do we really just have one? No, we have two more. Okay. Do you guys want to take a break or do you want to keep going on this one? 5 minutes? Okay. We will take a 5-minute break. Thank you, everybody. Rory, we good? Okay, we are back together. We are gonna, you're already sitting up there and ready to go, Carissa, excellent. So 7.4, approved contract with BAE Urban Economics for the Economic Vitality Strategic Plan, which we are all so excited about.
Well, good evening, Mayor, Council members. I'm Carissa Binkley, Economic Vitality Program Analyst, here requesting authorization to execute a contract with BAE Urban Economics to prepare the town's Economic Vitality Strategic Plan. The plan will provide a practical framework for supporting local businesses, strengthening economic resilience, and guiding future economic development efforts consistent with adopted town policies and council priorities. And staff recommends authorizing the town manager to execute a contract with BAE Urban Economics in an amount not to exceed $59,945. Funding for this work is already included in the fiscal year 26-27 budget under CIP 2511. And development of this plan directly implements General Plan Action ED 1.B, which calls for updating the town's economic development strategy to respond to evolving economic conditions. Truckee continues to experience challenges related to seasonal fluctuations, changing business needs, and broader economic conditions. This effort will help identify opportunities, priorities, and implementation strategies to support a healthy, year-round economy. This effort is grounded in the policy direction already adopted by the Town Council through the General Plan. The economic development element calls for a diverse and resilient year-round economy, support for local businesses and entrepreneurship, quality jobs and economic opportunity, and maintaining Truckee's character and quality of life. The strategic plan is intended to translate those broad policy objectives into prioritized and implementable roadmap. The consultant will begin by evaluating existing economic conditions, reviewing current plans and programs, and engaging businesses and stakeholders. The project will identify opportunities and challenges, assess existing business support efforts, and develop a set of prioritized actions. The final product will include implementation recommendations, a business success roadmap, and performance measures to help track progress over time. One of the primary goals of this project is to move beyond broad recommendations and focus on implementation. The scope includes prioritization of actions, identification of implementation considerations, clarification of town and partner roles, and recommendations that are aligned with available resources and organizational capacity. The intent is to produce a practical tool that can guide future decision-making and investment. And community input is a key component of the planning process. The scope includes stakeholder interviews, business focus groups, community engagement opportunities, and coordination with regional partners and organizations. This outreach will help ensure the recommendations reflect local priorities and the realities facing Truckee businesses and residents. Topics raised through engagement may include workforce challenges, business diversification, regulatory barriers, infrastructure needs, and other factors affecting economic vitality. And the town received 10 proposals from qualified consulting teams. Proposals were reviewed by town staff in coordination with the Truckee Chamber staff, and interviews were conducted with the foremost competitive firms. Following proposal review and interview, staff determined that BAE Urban Economics was the best fit based on their understanding of Truckee's economic context, experience with similar communities, implementation-focused approach, and partnership with Agnew Beck for stakeholder engagement. Staff subsequently worked with the consultant to refine the scope and align the project with available funding. In following contract execution, work is anticipated to begin this summer. Initial work will focus on review of existing plans and programs. Stakeholder engagement will come next, followed by development and prioritization of recommendations. And staff anticipates bringing the final plan to Town Council in spring 2027. And in summary, staff recommends approval of the contract with BAE Urban Economics to prepare the Economic Vitality Strategic Plan. The project will build upon existing plans and partnerships, identify actionable strategies to support economic vitality, and provide a practical roadmap for future implementation. Staff, as well as our consultant, are available for questions.
Thank you very much.
And Mayor, if I may just add to that briefly, just wanted to highlight that it's not typical for us to necessarily bring a contract forward as a discussion item, but recognizing this is a very important project and has a lot of community and council interest, we just wanted to provide an opportunity to highlight the project and the scope of work and have an opportunity for any council discussion if you desire.
We appreciate that opportunity. So given that, do we have any questions on this side of the dais? Councilmember Pallavi?
Of course I do.
I had a
And
feeling.
I will disguise my comments as questions as best I can prior to deliberation. What's that? Disguise your comments as questions too. You can just follow up. It's all good. Mostly it's just with some sort of like super minor pieces of the scope because we didn't see it. This was, or at least a week ago or so, was the first time we actually even saw the scope, I think, that went across. And so I think my questions are just really specific to that. So I was wondering, and I don't know if these are going to be incorporated into, I understand Aaron's here and probably representing BAE. Welcome, Aaron, in our audience. So there was no mention of retention in the first part of the scope of work. So when it said the objectives of this project are to, and then you have a couple of bullet points there. And my question is really, is retention an identified objective of business development? Because what we only say is, sorry, I'm getting there, but that's my main question. Fourth bullet under the objectives was what I was referring to there.
First, I can say that we can absolutely take direction from council on where we guide this scope. Also, the first part of this plan is taking in everything that the community's already adopted, that council's adopted, reflecting all of our existing wonderful community outreach that we did with the general plan, that we've done with R2SC, that we already know a lot of things about our community, but we haven't put them all together into one plan. And so to me, retention is one of the pieces that comes directly out of the general plan. And so to me, that's absolutely going to be part of this, but we can also hear tonight, if we get direction from council to make sure that's prioritized, that can also definitely be part of that from my perspective.
Wonderful.
We'll just be more specific about it.
Yeah,
as well,
I just didn't see that word wasn't necessarily used. I also had a concern that hopefully you can allay, because this was sort of a similar conversation that we had a few weeks ago, but quite literally the first bullet under both pieces in the scope of work specifically refers to the R2SC playbook and calls those out. And again, while I'm not disagreeing with the efforts there, I also want to make sure that, again, we're not overly focused on that particular area, and that we are very open to, the hundreds of thousands of other commercial zoning, square feet of commercial zoning that are already in play, right? That are not entitled, but at least zoned, envisioned. And I know that sort of falls under Truckee 2040 general plan. But then when you go in there, it's Truckee 2040 general plan, then it's R3 playbook, river revitalization, and catalyst project efforts. So to me, it feels like there's a significant overemphasis on the river revitalization work versus a balanced approach to townwide economic policy. And I guess I'm looking for some clarification there, either from staff or the consultant, as to what the intention is there and how that will be weighted and balanced in this particular
I'd love to have
project.
Aaron add to this, but I'll start by saying that from staff's perspective, adding in the R3 playbook, one was pointing out to one of our most recent broad community outreach perspectives. Also, from the perspective we learned from the R3 playbook is a lot of the property owner perspective that I feel like may not have been incorporated into that level of some of the other adopted documents, and it's less about the exact location and more about the higher lessons learned about what the triggers are and the barriers to revitalization. But I'd love to have Aaron also.
So again, my name is Aaron Hussein. I'm a principal with BAE Urban Economics. Thank you, members of council. Thank you, staff, as well, for having me this evening. My general expectation with regard to the way the scope of work is written, to some extent, the language in terms of how those documents got bulleted out was reflecting the language used in the RFP. The way that I would recommend approaching this type of strategic plan would be really benchmarking the work in the general plan as the defining foundational document. Anything else that gets incorporated is supplemental to that, and we'll be really looking at those documents as implementing components of the general plan. And so what we'll be doing in some of the first initial phases of the work is really mapping out the extent to which those supplemental plans are fully implementing the general plan programs and policies, where there's gaps, where there's maybe more emphasis, or there's other things that are being done that aren't necessarily fitting into that general plan matrix, right? So we'll be really looking back to the general plan as a community-wide guiding document and foundational framework for your economic vitality approach.
So your reply in short would be a balanced approach at the entire community, utilizing just some of these extra documents as layers on top.
Absolutely, that is the goal.
Thanks, Aaron. And then my last question, it was also really interesting. I was trying to find exactly, but I think it was in that second set of bullets. It was provide an implementation roadmap that is realistic given existing staffing while identifying future recommended actions that would require additional resources. So I just also want to clarify on that one. Yes, we're looking at sort of short term, like, low hanging fruit as one might put it, but also future actions, not just additional resources from a monetary perspective, but also like recommendations regarding human resources and capacity and what, for example, if a program makes it into this document, the types of resources that would need to be allocated to it to make it successful. Is that the type of action we can expect out of whatever the final document looks like? Whoever wants to take that,
I'll
feel
start.
free.
And again, I love Aaron's perspective, but I think the part of the RFP that we scoped around this was based on the idea that currently it's a division of one, knowing that if the best outcome for our community includes additional human resources, to use your term, that could be called out. But I'd love Aaron's perspective.
So absolutely, this is generally structured as about a 5-year plan or so. So we would be looking at near-term capacity, recognizing the one dedicated staff person for the near term, and then we'll be looking at division of labor over the full plan period. So there will be some things that say the Chamber of Commerce will be implementing, other stakeholders will be implementing. But if there are things where the town distinctly desires to have a direct role, we can plan that in and try and identify what resources would be required that this council can then subsequently allocate.
Excellent. And my last question was, what kind of horizon are we looking at? And you just answered that, being 5 years. So much appreciated. That's all for me.
Excellent questions. I think I understand it even better now. Thank you. Anything from you, Councilmember Remick? Councilmember Zabriskie, do you have some questions?
Yes, I do. I have more than a few. I was really impressed with the breadth of the RFP and BAE's attempt to address that broad scope and the many aspects of the plan. And I'm relieved also to see there's also a provision on establishing priorities, because I don't think all the things that are in that scope could be accomplished with the staff and money we have and the time we're looking at. I looked at the strategic plan for 2001, 2009, and the economic element of the general plan, and I see this really does reflect, the RFP reflects what's contained, particularly in the economic element. I'm wondering how, what kind of questions are you going to pose to elicit well-informed opinions from the community and business leaders, just in addressing the various main topics, like whether we should be making a priority out of improving economic conditions for our existing businesses, focusing on diversifying our economy first or attracting new businesses generally, or increasing economic activity in the shoulder season. Those are four examples of maybe overlapping but sufficiently distinct things. How are you going to elicit questions on or comments on these, also taking into account some of these are controversial? You have realtors who are all for bringing in new business that increases property values, and then we have many people who don't want to see Truckee grow at all.
I will, my first comment will be that we were very conscious in building the RFP that this is a Truckee plan that's implementable, because Truckee is very unique compared to any other rural town, any other mountain town. We have those unique, we have the character that we're trying to protect. We have an environment we're trying to protect. We don't want growth at all costs. That's not who we are. And it's one of those pieces that was part of where BAE shone, because they were one of the ones who truly understood our community. And I will say, to me, the questions you're asking are more along the lines of the analysis that will be done after the community outreach. I would expect most businesses, most community organizations that will be part of the community outreach may not have that lens that you were just pointing at. They may have a little more focused based on their first world view. And I imagine that Aaron's expertise and his analysis after receiving their inputs would be part of where we're going, but I'd love to hear Aaron's perspective.
Okay, Aaron, what I'm curious about is how do you educate the participants on the pros and cons of all these different measures?
Those are great questions, Councilmember Zabriskie.
Easy questions.
Yeah, right.
Give me the answer.
Right. Well, I'll start by saying that, again, we are going to really base this work on the foundation of your existing adopted guiding documents. So a lot of those policy priorities and values have already been incorporated into some of those foundational documents. So we'll start by looking to those adopted values and goals, and really use those to identify what the top tier priorities should be. If there are cases where there are, components of, say, the economic development element that could be weighted similarly, those are things that we can ask the community as part of our interview process, also as part of the workshop that we're scoped to prepare. So the idea is that we'll do the upfront work to understand the existing framework, understanding what the community has already said our priorities are, figure out what that means from a practical standpoint, looking at what we're already doing across, say, the Chamber's contract, what the town is already working on, a lot of the land use planning that the town is already working on with the development code update, et cetera. There's a lot of things that are already being implemented there. There's a lot of values and priorities that are already being expressed. And then we will look to the gaps that exist within the existing program and policy framework, look for places where the town maybe isn't doing, everything you could be doing to implement the economic development element, for example. And we'll be looking for some feedback on those items to get a sense of, how best to go about that. For example, one of the items that is identified in the economic development element is the business success program. This scope of work includes a component to specifically look at, activities that the town could be engaged in to support, business growth and development, establishment, navigating existing, policy and permitting programs and things of that nature. So we'll be looking to collect some of that feedback as well. So your question was wide-ranging, just like the scope of work. Hopefully I addressed, most of your concerns.
Somewhat hard to encourage to think about going into these meetings.
Mayor Zabriskie, your mic is not on.
Yeah. Well, I was commenting anyway. I'll go. Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, I guess I'm emphasizing the importance. I think it's important to go in with pros and cons on these topics, in part while the council adopted them as policies. Some of them still remain contentious, and we might be able to mute some of the contention by pointing out there are pros and cons to these. But I want to go on now to, when I look at the town's role, when I start thinking how you're going to address the town's role, I realize the town has already done a lot to promote economic stability and vitality through its zoning and permitting. And when I say permitting, I'm thinking also in terms of the Air Diamond and the Baker Tilly recommendations being implemented. But then the road maintenance and repair, the streetscape improvements we're seeing everywhere, the community facility districts, all the work we're doing to provide housing for our workforce, public transportation, the great job we do on trash and solid waste pickup, law enforcement, the homeless housing services, public art and landscaping, environmental protection, all these things the town are already doing well. I think it's important. I'd like your thoughts on, should we be asking community members and business leaders to comment on how we can improve what we already do, in addition to asking, do you want us to go out and play the role of a business advisor?
I think we can work with the consultant team to develop questions that do get at, in the realm of things that we're doing, how effective are they being perceived? Because I think oftentimes when we're out doing things like public art, we know there's a great benefit to that, but it's not often connected to being, economic development or even the infrastructure and the road work that we're doing. So if nothing else, maybe it's a good reminder that those are all connected pieces of the total picture.
Okay, thank you. And then finally, my last question goes to the question and answer and the written questions and answers about electrification, noting that it wasn't, hasn't been previously included or something to that effect. The 2009 strategic, economic strategic plan did include potential development of, I think it was 4 different kinds of alternative energy as engines for economic development. And so I would like to see that carried through, at least investigated, have queries on that, and recognize that that is one potential area of strategic economic vitality.
So you're asking why it wasn't included, or is that just a statement that you'd like to see it included?
It's in a way, I think I'm correct. I feel like I'm correcting slightly what I interpreted to be staff's view. I'm saying there is a history of that being included in at least one prior strategic plan. I think it's important to at least revisit it, because I think it remains more viable than ever.
Okay, we can bring that back for some deliberation.
I can also add, just for context for your deliberation, we were cognizant to add in the scope that if there are pieces that become evident that are already adopted or already created, that could be part of the analysis of this work that BAE plans to be doing, we could offer them. And so maybe some of the work that Aaron's team is doing around electrification, if there's any output by the time this is being worked on, could potentially be something that could be offered without expanding the scope.
Okay. Thank you. Are you done? Thank you. I just have a couple. What did we shave off in order to fit the scope within our budget limits?
That's a fair question. I will say I'm very happy with, personally, staff. I feel like we landed in a great place of value for what we're getting. And if you look through the scope, there are pieces that the town and we leaned on the chamber's existing contract to help support. So some of the public outreach, the town staff and chamber will be leaning on lunch and learns and existing chamber events, since that's something that's kind of built into their workflow, that we knew that instead of paying the hourly rate of a consultant, we could already use existing resources.
Very smart. Thank you.
Looking into the best practices of other economic development plans of other communities is something, instead of, again, paying a consultant by the hour to research. I raised my hand because I would love to go find, we're going to get recommendations from BAE of peer communities and reach out to them and find out what works for them for business success and what doesn't, and what barriers they found and what is the most helpful thing for their communities. So those are the pieces, those I'd say were the main ones that we work through.
That's very helpful and great solutions. Thank you. And then I'm not advocating for a business license. I just want to be clear about that. But given the fact that we don't have one, we certainly have certain channels. We have the Chamber of Commerce list of businesses. We've got Contractors Association, VTT. But there's going to be gaps. There's going to be people that aren't in any of those kind of naturally occurring groups. So how are we going to reach them?
I will say from the top, reaching all of our business community, 100% of our business community probably wasn't part of what we envisioned as part of the scope of this. But in general, the idea of a business license, I think it's been clear at this point where this council may stand on that matter. However, I feel like that could be something, if it became an obvious solution, that BAE could have as a potential recommendation. I don't know if Aaron wants to add to that.
I think more broadly, realistically, we are not going to hit every business.
No, we're not. But I'm just curious if there's an acknowledgement that there's a very clear gap and that we might need some targeted
I think we're going to, we'll use all the resources we have available, the Chamber, TDMA, and do as much of that, our own advertising, our own outreach and tabling. But there are gaps and we won't be able to reach everybody. We'll do our best.
Right.
And just adding to that, under the most recent chamber contract, we did work with the chamber to develop a pretty comprehensive inventory of businesses. So it's not just chamber members and the people who are typically showing up at workshops. So we can leverage that list as well to make sure we're having as broad outreach as we can.
Oh, thank you, Haley. I was not aware of that. That's very helpful. Okay. Anything else to add? We good? Okay. I'll open this up for public comment. Is there anybody who would like to make public comment on this agenda item? Seeing none, we'll move back to deliberation. There is one point already made. Council Member Polivy, would you like to add any additional points for deliberation or consideration?
No, I think my questions disguised as comments probably were fine. And, hopefully just provide, I very much look forward to this. We've been waiting for this for, again, quite a while. I think it's great that we're going to have the opportunity to update it. I think we're in good hands with BAE and Agnew Beck and the Chamber and Carissa and everybody else who's going to be involved, and Hillary and everybody else who will be involved in that. And I think our business community will be excited, in addition to just our resident community. We have so many micro opportunities as well happening in our community, and we all get asked daily in the planning department, how do I legally do this or that or position a business to be successful? So I think it's a great roadmap. I appreciate the balance of both built environment and also policy level direction. I think those will be extremely strategic in how this is executed. And I think as a council member, this makes our job easier. It's plans like this that we can continue to point to enhance our decision making, have the data and the vision that we need to represent this great deal of research and opportunity that's happening in our community. So I think it is a real benefit to the future direction of the economic vitality of our community, and I look forward to working with you all on it. So yeah, I'm supportive.
Thank you. Yes, this will be very helpful for data-driven decisions, which is what we always strive for up here. Do you have anything to add, Councilmember Romack?
No, well said, Councilmember Polivy. I really appreciate the approach to how it's looking at what we have capacity for with our one amazing staff member dedicated to this, as well as looking towards the future. So it also gives us realistic expectations of what we can do, which is always really good. And then just excited to continue to work with the chamber. I know they are very excited about this in meetings with them. So excited to move forward.
Councilmember Zabriskie.
I had the same concern that Councilmember Polivy had when I saw R2SC repeated so many times in the RFP. Aaron's already really familiar with it, and so I do have the sense he's already educated on that project, and I don't see this being a case of the town jumping more deeply into what the R2SC committee's already doing. I guess one of my biggest concerns is the town's role, and so I think it would take a lot down the road to persuade me that we should go beyond what our traditional role has been. I really see us as primarily creating the environment to support our existing economic sector. That's what we do best. We should stick to what we do best and let the market forces and other groups like Visit Truckee, Tahoe, and the Chamber do more, and the Sierra Business Council take the lead on other aspects like increasing shoulder season activity and diversifying our economy. And so I'll be very interested to see what the business and public responses are on that. And I'd be fine with business licenses, but I know from prior sessions that's an anathema or not compatible with other views.
It has its challenges and its benefits.
Thank you. It has its challenges.
Yes. Okay. Great. Thank you so much. Yeah, I too am very excited about this, and I'm very appreciative of you, Carissa, and your curiosity and enthusiasm for this work. We're very fortunate. Look forward to seeing what comes from this. So with that, are we ready for a motion?
So moved. We approve the contract with BAE.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Passes unanimously. Thank you so much for being here, Erin. Okay, and our last discussion item, conduct a public hearing and introduce ordinance 2026-09 and ordinance 2026-10 for amendments to Development Code and Title 18 of the Truckee Municipal Code. Laura, great to see you.
Good evening, Mayor and council members. I'm here tonight to present to you our latest round of general plan implementation development code updates and some additional code updates that are not related to general plan. So this is our third round that includes some general plan items. We took this to Planning Commission in April. They forwarded their recommendations. So tonight it's your chance to review. We have one discussion topic, which is updates to the noise chapter, and then we have a list of other development code cleanup items. So council's role in this is to determine if the proposed amendments support the implementation of the general plan as you envisioned. Our role as staff is to propose amendments to ensure that the code is consistent with the general plan and that strive to achieve the goals and visions of the plan, and to take any direction from you on how best to implement your vision for the 2040 general plan. So our first topic is noise. In the general plan, in the safety and noise element, we have a couple of policies. One's related to noise reduction techniques, and that prohibits the construction of sound walls and requires new projects to evaluate different techniques to reduce noise. And we also have a ground-borne vibration policy, which talks about ensuring that vibration-sensitive uses are set back 200 feet from the center line of the railroad tracks, and to require a vibration assessment consistent with the Federal Transit Administration vibration standards. Sorry. Computer is misbehaving. Okay, so we have a couple action items in the general plan. First one is directing us to ensure that vibration-sensitive uses are set back from the center line of the railroad tracks, and the other is to amend the development code to prohibit the installation of sound walls. So to implement these items, we're proposing to amend Chapter 18.44, which is the noise chapter, prohibiting sound walls and requiring new vibration-sensitive uses, which are defined as any church, hospital, hotel, public library, residence, school, doctor's office, and offices and manufacturing uses with vibration-sensitive equipment. If those are proposed within 200 feet of the center line of the railroad tracks, they would have to submit a vibration assessment and identify measures to reduce the ground-borne vibration. And if the vibration can't be reduced to acceptable levels, then those sensitive uses would need to be located at least 200 feet back from the center line. So this wouldn't affect existing uses like residents in the downtown, which would be allowed to remain. Our GIS team put together this map to show what that buffer would look like. So primarily this would affect, in the downtown area, the properties right along the railroad tracks, which are mostly the ones that are owned by the railroad. So our amendments that we're proposing to the noise chapter, the Planning Commission recommended approval of those as proposed. Next, we have a list of cleanup amendments. We won't go through all of these. I did want to point out that there were a couple of changes since it went to Planning Commission. We made one additional edit to the accessory dwelling unit section to ensure consistency with some other code language about development standards. And we also added the deed restricted housing project incentives update to fix some language that was inadvertently left in when we put that new language in the code. So the recommendation from Commission was to approve the cleanup amendments as proposed. They adopted Resolution 2026-07, forwarding their recommendation to update the general plan, or the development code with the general plan implementation for noise and the cleanup amendments, and recommending that the amendments be exempt from CEQA. Our recommendation tonight is that you conduct a public hearing and take the following actions: introducing Ordinance 2026-09, which would adopt amendments to support the general plan implementation and the cleanup amendments, and Ordinance 2026-10, which would adopt the amendments to the accessory dwelling units chapter, and then find all of those amendments exempt from CEQA. And before we go on to questions, I believe Danielle wanted to add a couple of comments.
I do. Thanks, Laura. I want to specifically talk about the ADU ordinance, in part because we fully expect to get a response from HCD about our ordinance. And that's not just because we're Truckee, it's because HCD's been providing written responses to ADU ordinances for almost every jurisdiction. So regardless, we think we'll get a response from them. They may, in that response, ask us to make modifications, but until that happens, we don't exactly know what that will be. So that will come back to council regardless of whatever we get from them. But part of why we think we will get this also is because we are proposing some slight variations from their model ordinance, and that's very specific to our unique environment that we have with snow conditions. So there's 4 areas where we've included specific findings to address our unique conditions, and that's maintaining our setbacks, so our front yard setbacks and our street side setbacks, pretty much anywhere adjacent to a roadway in recognition of snow removal. Not allowing for windows in garages that are in a conversion space. So if you're taking your garage and converting it and that garage happens to be in a front setback, ensuring that there's no windows, which is a standard that we have right now because we often will throw ice chunks, just by nature of removing snow. So protecting occupants of that space from that potential. Requiring non-shedding roof material for any ADU that's in a reduced setback. Again, because we all understand sort of the unique environment that we're in, that we want to make sure that that's not creating an impact to the adjacent property. And then also requiring that the parking is fully on site and not within the right of way. And again, because of our winter conditions. So part of this is so that HCD has to recognize that we do have a unique environment here, and often a one-size-fits-all approach doesn't work for a mountain environment like ours. So we've had conversations with HCD already sort of preemptively about what's included in an ordinance, what we expect to get out of this, but we think it's important for us to continue to advocate for our community, even if it means we get a written response, because we're going to get one anyway. So just wanted to add that in there so you have that context.
That is very helpful, and of course, we all deeply appreciate you making sure that we have those specific snow findings, I would call them. Okay, with that, Councilmember Zabriskie, do you have questions?
Yes, it's a little ironic. I was talking about our trying to create an environment where existing businesses could do well, and then I realized that I missed this when we adopted the general plan. We're banning sound walls. So essentially, instead of allowing an exemption where circumstances wouldn't permit anything else, we're essentially banning development along I-80 in terms of any reasonable housing, like what the hospital was originally planning to do at top of MacGyver. They wanted to put in long-term care. The interstate's deafening up there, so.
I just want to remind you we're in questions right now.
No, I've already jumped ahead to deliberations. Oh, my question is, does anyone remember why we banned sound walls?
Yeah, so if we go back to that slide that has the actual language. Okay, so in addition to prohibiting sound walls, it does talk a lot about other types of site design techniques. So setbacks, earthen berms, other types of architectural layouts, and different ways to meet the noise reduction. So I think the intent of that was the thinking was that there were other ways to meet the need for noise reduction. And at Planning Commission, I believe Danielle had some insight on some other projects like Gray's Crossing and how they addressed noise with the earthen berms.
Yeah, I mean, the evolution of that was that the community didn't want to see sort of the walled off highway that happens a lot of times in other jurisdictions where you create these, 20-foot or taller walls on either side of the highway to sort of protect the uses around it. That aesthetic was not what Truckee wanted. And so looking for these other opportunities to create earthen berms or doing heavier landscaping or some sort of architectural treatment to the buildings themselves was the preferred alternative, primarily, again, because we didn't want to see sort of this corridor of, keeping drivers only looking at these cement walls or features that kind of blocked your mountain views and sort of your connection with the environment. So that was the history of it. I think the success has been Old Greenwood, that a lot of people, when you drive on the highway going towards Reno, see sort of the beautiful landscape, which is actually blocking Old Greenwood. That's all man-made. And it's not a natural feature, but unless you were here when they were constructing it, it looks very, very natural. So I think, just from a community input perspective over time, the community's asked for sort of that natural feature to be the primary versus a constructed wall.
Do you have additional questions? Thank you. Questions on this side? No. On the same topic, I did have one. Yes, most of that 200-foot band is in the that impacts existing parcels is in the downtown rail yard, and most of those parcels are owned by the railroad, but there are some that aren't. Are we potentially rendering any of those unimprovable?
So I think here, let me look. I think I have a different diagram that is more specific to downtown. Let me see. That might give us a better idea of. Okay, yeah, let's look at this one. So when I took some measurements, you can see the center line here, and I took measurements of things like, Commercial Row, the Artist Lofts, a bunch of different properties downtown, and those were all outside that buffer. So the ones that were, down here, like Jack's on the Tracks, things like that are really close to the railroad, or the railroad tracks, were the ones that were within that. So there's very specific uses with very specific types of equipment that this would apply to. If they have vibration sensitive equipment, and there could be mitigation measures. The way that the language was written, we were worried that it might be too restrictive, which is why we came up with the language that said, if you can mitigate it, then it could be allowed within the 200 feet. So that was kind of where we landed.
It's only if that improvement includes specific equipment that is sensitive to the vibration.
Right.
And then they're allowed to have alternative mitigation measures. Okay.
Yeah, and if they
Much more
can't
comfortable.
mitigate it, then the setback applies.
Okay.
So we thought that was a reasonable way to address that.
I'm sure somebody will disagree with us, but I think it is as reasonable as we can get. Okay, thank you very much. With that, I'll open up for public comment. Seeing none, we'll come back for deliberation. Councilmember Zabriskie, do you have anything you would further like to deliberate on this?
I'm hoping staff at some point I'm hoping staff's making a list of things that might come back as part of amendments to the general plan that include reconsideration of the absolute sound wall ban, because I see that as a classic impediment to infill housing. So I've seen I've seen sound walls that I consider ugly and some that I think are fine, attractive because of the articulation that's been done to them. I don't think the entire community is opposed to sound walls. I think a vocal element of the community succeeded in convincing us to go one way. I hope we can go another way in the
At this point,
future.
are you asking if there's two other council members that would like to reopen that general plan discussion, or are you just?
I just want to see it go on a list. This alone is not reason to reopen the general plan. I'll wait until we have a dozen items.
Okay, we'll add it to a list.
I have my own list.
Yeah, I bet you do. Any additional discussion?
No, that's it. Thank
No.
you.
Okay, any discussion on this side?
I just appreciate Laura and team, the amount of diving in deep into the weeds you guys do to do all these cleanup efforts. So thanks for that. And thanks to the Planning Commission for their work. And then Danielle, appreciate the efforts of making our case to HCD, and even knowing we might just get a letter back, at least we're putting it out there so that way they at least have to be more aware of our different environment here. So appreciate again the efforts.
Just to acknowledge too, we have a good working relationship with them. So I feel like they've been a good help for us. So hopefully that relationship that we've built will continue, and they'll be open to hearing more of our feedback.
Anything else? Councilmember Pallavi?
Supportive.
No, I think what both has been said prior to me is sufficient at this time. So I support both comments that have been mentioned.
Great. I don't have anything in addition, so looking for a motion.
Also move that we are introducing Ordinance 2609 and Ordinance 2026-09 and Ordinance 2026-10 for amendments to the Development Code.
I'll second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? None. Seeing none, passes unanimously. And Kelly, we didn't make any formal announcement about Vice Mayor Henderson departing, but you are taking notes on our votes. Thank you so much. So we are down to council reports. Councilmember Pallavi, are you ready?
Sure.
Take it away.
It was a very busy previous weekend with graduation and Truckee Day, and I missed the Truckee Day stuff, but high school graduation, along with other exciting things that were going on. When was our last meeting? The 26th? Yes. And other than that, town-wide, I think I have nothing else to report. Yeah, I've been doing other stuff. I've been working a lot, so I'm good. Yeah.
Councilmember Romack.
Thanks for supporting our local economy, Dave. On the graduation theme, I was at Kings Beach Elementary's kindergarten graduation this morning, so got to see some of our Truckee kindergartners as well as kindergartners from around North Lake. Adorable. Also, Truckee Day, picking up litter. I said this last year, but we'll share again that my 5-year-old was disappointed in the lack of litter, which disappointing for him, good for our community. Our bag was hardly full at all, covering a whole street in Sierra Meadows. So thank you, everyone, for your efforts. Also, big thanks to Truckee Pride organizers. Did the Rainbow Run and Roll. That was fantastic. I pretended that I was a runner and tried to run a little bit, and I finished, so that was good. And thanks to town staff for being out there. And then also went to the Queer Prom on Saturday. And it was an awesome, awesome event. Would encourage folks to go. It's fun to put on silly outfits and dance the night away. So thanks again to all the Truckee Pride organizers for a great week of events. And that is it.
Awesome. Councilmember Zabriskie.
I attended a housing element community workshop sponsored by our planning division. That went well. The Prosser Firewise community held their education day with 3 speakers. Susan Elliott from the fire district talked about the results of separated home inspections in the Prosser Lakeview area, the improvements that occurred. Ryan Kramer, who some of you may know, is a local arborist, spoke on defensible space. Then we had a state farm agent talk about the Cal Fair plan and the best way to acquire and keep fire insurance. And then for Truckee Cleanup Day, I'm going to invite Councilmember Romack to come out to the Navigation Center with her son next year. I was able to fill a bag by coincidence in front of Taco Bell. Between Taco Bell and the stream, there was more than enough trash there. Didn't have in an area no bigger than this room. Pretty fascinating. And worked with a lot of guests from the Navigation Center. Apparently, there were 8 individuals from the Navigation Center picked up trash, and there were about 10 bags stacked up as evidence of their work. And then finally, I had a delightful conversation with Art Chapman about phase 2 of the Jurger Ranch project. You know, that's the one that has about 14 affordable homes, 55 workforce housing. He's saying because of permit fees from other special districts that he's a little over $1 million short, and that's what he shared with me. He's looking for help. That's it for here.
Thank you, Councilmember Zabriskie. Yeah, it was a fun-packed week. Multiple Pride events. Got to hand out Pride socks at all. I think I went to 4 different events at all of them. It was so fun. Truckee Day was great as always. Beautiful weather, and it is a little like, that's all I found. But it is also really exciting that every year it seems like our litter cleanup accomplishes less, which is a good thing. I also attended the Donner Lake Interagency Partnership DIPS meeting, where we were again re-looking at the identified projects and discussing ways to prioritize those and how to move those forward in kind of different categories with different partners. And then I attended a PSOM information meeting with TDPUD, just to kind of understand what their notification and watches are going to look like coming up. So that's it. And I think our next meeting is June 23rd, correct?
That's correct. And we'll be starting at 4 as a special meeting to hear an appeal.
We have an appeal and one last meeting before going dark in July.
That is correct. And we are going to break up the meeting, so we'll hear the appeal at 4 and then have the regular meeting start approximately 6:30 after the appeal.
Okay, great. Okay. So we'll be taking a break in between there.
Yes.
Dinner break.
Yes.
Excellent. Good information for the public to have. So 4 o'clock and then 6:30-ish for the regular meeting. Thank you, everybody, for being here. We'll see you then.